Today's interview is with Kaylee McMahon. Kaylee is an apartment syndicator. So she has a wealth of knowledge that she shares today. She talks a little bit about distress that she sees coming and what might be coming next, along with AI, artificial intelligence in real estate as well. So really fascinating talk. Stick around for all of that. There's a bunch of great information that you want to listen to today. As always, like and subscribe on Wrestling with Real Estate, the YouTube channel. Go to the WWRE Podcast and give me a 5-star rating and write me a great review. It really does help build this platform and to continue to pump out great content. And I'm looking to speak to as many of you as possible. If you're interested in real estate, whatever capacity that is, I'd love to get to know you, see if there's any way whatsoever I can help. So go to the link in the description below, or go to wrestlingwithrealestate.com and sign up there. But before that, stick around for today's awesome interview with Kaylee McMahon. Hello and welcome to Wrestling with Real Estate, where we look to chokeslam all your real estate problems. I'm your host, former WWE wrestler and now Cirque du Soleil performer, and of course, multifamily real estate investor, Barri Griffiths. Now today we're joined by Kaylee McMahon. Hey, Kaylee. Hey. How are you doing today?
Awesome. Just want to get this on Instagram.
Oh, are we filming everything? You got to get it on the socials. You got to get it on the socials, right?
Yeah.
If it's not on the socials, it didn't happen.
Right.
Exactly, yeah. Well, cool. Hey, thanks for making time to be on the show today. I really appreciate that. Excited to jump into the conversation and kind of hear about everything that's going on with you. But before we do that, do you want to give people an idea about your background, what you've been up to, and what your current focus is?
Sure. So where I've made money, I guess, is what you probably want to know, in real estate brokerage, and then real estate syndication as a lead or key principal. So that's a good summary.
Quick and easy, yeah. But before that, what did you do? Did you go to school? What led you to real estate as well? What was the path there like for you?
It was a total accident, honestly. I quit the corporate world, building dental practices for new doctors when I was probably like 2 big kid jobs deep, and then realized I hated my manager because he just didn't understand that all I wanted to do was learn and grow. And I'm a lifetime learner. And so asking questions and wanting to be shadowed in the field and all this stuff is a great employee quality, but it was just too much. I guess they were very comfortable in their positions and I always wanted to grow. So kind of laid in bed after 2.5 years of doing that job. And like, I'm a very good hunter. So I was hunting every day, but you get tired, you get burnt out, and you don't have a system that repeats itself to some level or repeat business. And I was like, what would I rather be doing today? So I thought to myself, and it turned into, I'd rather be organizing everything in my house, and realized that I really like that, systems and organizing. But at the time I thought about in a home. So I started a company called The Millionaire's Assistant. And what it was a concierge that worked with wealthy individuals in Dallas, Fort Worth. I did a little bit in East Dallas. But anyway, there's like some wealthy families that basically have like multiple homes, multiple businesses, multiple cars. They have a lot going on and they need somebody to say, okay, here's all the bills that were paid. Here's your schedule for the week and the kids scheduled. All the cars are serviced. All the lawn care has been taken care of. And then for me, what I like to do is set up systems to where you'd come in and like organize everything to where this is this is the system, this is where the input is. And then it would like, for the most part, not completely like it's not artificial intelligence where it does it itself. You as a human have to input to organize it. But if you followed the system, it would be able to create a lot of extra time. And the thing there was, for me personally, what I wanted was more time to be able to pursue things that I loved, whether it was my family or at the time for me, it was figuring out like, what am I doing on the earth? What's my why? I have no clue. But if you don't take the time to figure it out, you'll never, figure it out. So that business was fine, but it was just me. So if you've ever read Rich Dad Poor Dad, the ESBI quadrant, I was a self-employed individual. And so if I didn't input work, then there was no output of money. Like there was nothing that was passive. There was nothing that was a system. So I really wanted a B-type business, but I just didn't really know, how to get there. And after reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, it made a lot of sense about the industry of real estate and how it works. My family doesn't do any, so I didn't really know. And then I go, okay, so my idea here is to get the 4 greenhouses to get to the Big Red Hotel. It made a lot of sense and how to do it. However, I still had this business, and a friend of mine had said, okay, that's a 1 day thing when you get there. But for now, what you can do is you can go get your real estate license, sell, 4 or 5 homes a year, take that income and dump it into this business that you built. And, for the marketing systems, advertising, people that you need in a business, every business is the same and you need those things. And I wasn't willing to take out a loan. So that made a lot of sense. So I got my license in like a month and a half off Groupon. And yeah, because I was like, what's the cheapest way that I can self-teach? And got it, passed the test. And then kind of, that's one thing, and a question that you'll ask later that I'll respond the same way. I'm really, I don't know if it's good at it, I guess, learning something and then going, okay, I think I understand this because it's a pretty basic concept. And then I get bored and I move on. So it was quickly apartment locating, and then getting into condo sales, and I getting quickly into small luxury homes, larger luxury homes, then working with a fund, and the fund did multiple things all at the same time. Yeah. So, and then accidentally getting into the investing world because it was something I was curious about. But when you're in the retail or agent world, I guess, if you will, all of those people don't know anything about investing. And because they have fear, they preach to you, oh, investors are sharks, and they don't do good deals, and they gyp you of money, and, they lie to you, and all this negative stuff, so that you should stay away. And I'm like, you know what, if you can back that up with facts, I'll listen to you. But because you can't, I'm going to go ask some questions. And I'm pretty good at knowing a little bit about a lot. So I ended up finding out, long story short, about apartments after flipping some houses. And it was just a much better setup as far as like the professionals that I worked with, caring about the reputation and the types of work they did, and how they did it, et cetera, so that would allow me to be able to scale faster. So it made a lot more sense.
Pretty cool. So are you still on the brokerage side, or are you full-time on the apartment investing side?
I do have a residential brokerage. I have a couple of agents, and they are just experienced, and they want to be left alone, and I don't take any of their commissions. So it's just a monthly office fee, and they do their own thing. Yeah, so I still have the brokerage, and then I haven't yet, maybe we're starting to see some distress in the real estate market in the multifamily. And so when I have a deal that is fat enough to build in like an extra percentage for the company or whatever, then I'll be able to use it for that. But right now, everything is so overpriced, it just doesn't make any sense to take any kind of extra fees, because it'll kind of ruin the deal.
So you said that in terms of distress, right? You haven't seen any yet. Does that mean that you expect to see some, or is that just general chit chat?
Yeah, no, I've seen some, and there's more coming. So I've already got lists of there's a couple of lenders out there. So what I did many things during the lockdown, but all of it was like, oh my God, I have this list of where, influx of leads, AKA deal flow, should be coming from. And so what is known that works that I do, and then what is possible. So it's the bullseye method of figuring out, okay, what's working, what is possible, and then narrowing down on exactly how to get to which mini item in that category like is working right now. So for example, I had gotten some leads through contractors and some other methods, but one that I really focused on, because some other people had experience with it, was focusing on special servicers. So special servicers in multifamily are individuals who, my best experience was working with women, because I'm in a couple women's groups, and then the Apartment Queen, what we do is bring women into multifamily. So I have to kind of focus on women to bring more of them in. I have to get in front of their face all the time, So I worked with a few ladies at Capital One, Newmark Knight Frank, CBRE, forget where she's at, but it's Atlanta Peachtree, their office. I forget what the brokerage is, but so it's lenders that originate and service their own debt. So it's people that don't sell off, their bank debt or whatever. So then they would be aware if you've got a slow pay, no pay, 90-day out, pre-foreclosure, like where they're at in the cycle. And then if you can have a relationship with that special servicer, that's what I worked on over the lockdown. So there's a couple that I have like a standing call with them every month, and I call them, and I ask them about their life and who they are and this kind of stuff. And if they know what I want. So if they happen to have something, I'm like, send it to me. So I've seen a couple lists of some pre-foreclosures, and then there's a couple of other, so let's just say that for now.
Wow, interesting. That's really interesting. And that's a great idea, right? Because obviously if the banks have to take them back, right, who's the first person that's going to know? Is the banks, is the people servicing the loan. So those are the people that you want to get in touch with. So I think that's a brilliant idea. But how, outside of being a female, talking to a female, how were you able to get a hold of them to start off and then find these people? Because it sounds like a great idea, right? I'm sure everyone's like, okay, that makes complete sense. But how do you get a hold of them? Do you just have special powers, or was there another way that's repeatable?
Well, unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because I'd like it to change quite a bit, but for now, the commercial executives in multifamily real estate are 67% white male. Mm-hmm. So to be able to find a niche that you fit into where you immediately have like a warm intro, if you will, is probably the first way. So this is a very much relationship-based business, the way that it's been structured. Now there is some disruption coming, and some of that will change that. But when I first got into the industry, that's immediately the first thing I tried to do was disrupt it. But I didn't have the depth of tools that I needed. Now I kind of do. But in the beginning, I tried to repeat a bunch of the models that I use in single family to find off market leads and to find pre-foreclosure. That shit doesn't work in multifamily. And it does, but you have to make friends with the source of it because it is so protected, because this industry is it's very small, and everybody knows each other. And honestly, at the end of the day, there's a lot of sharks out there. And for the most part, we really want to keep people in this industry that want to keep a strong network, that want to support each other, that are not completely self-motivated. There are a few of those, don't get me wrong, but when you have buttloads of money, you can kind of do your own thing, but the rest of us have had to scramble for it, raise it, work our butts off for it. So that source particularly came about me thinking, like I said, my niche, like what group do I have access to? Like my underwriter, now partner, Carolina, she's involved with a group of women from Sweden because she's from Sweden. So she's like, oh my God, these women have so much freaking money, so, and she's like, and I can speak their language, so that's her niche. And that's a group of people that, feel comfortable with her, have talked to her. I've got another friend that she's got a group of people. So she works full time at Microsoft. And so there's a group of like 600 odd engineers, women engineers from Middle East and Pakistan, who have kind of banded together. So that's kind of her level of influence, and then that can grow. But for me, it was CREW, which is Commercial Real Estate Women, is what that acronym stands for. And it's an all-female commercial real estate group. So they don't allow you into the group if you've never done anything in commercial real estate. You have to have transacted, sold something, bought something, even if you're a vendor, because there's vendors in the group too, but like they can't be, I've never, sold a deal or whatever. You have to have experience. And what's so super cool, I didn't realize this till the lockdown, because you have to learn to be resilient and to lean on what you already have. When we couldn't go network, I couldn't go hunt anymore. I was like, oh, I'm already a part of this group. So now I'm going to set up a coffee, once, I think twice a month or something, Thursday mornings. And I realized at that point, when I just said F it and hosted it, that it's actually a global organization. So we've got women that jumped in from like Dubai, that jumped in from England, that jumped in from all over the place. And, real estate isn't necessarily, or what we do with our syndications, it's not necessarily just here. I mean, we've taken money from China, from Japan, from Canada, from Mexico, whatever. But anyway, so that was really cool. But that was my group that I kind of used to say in the forum where you can, blast or whatever, constantly on my Trello, where I have my little project boards. I have a lead board of like, where are we getting our leads from? And I have a reminder of like, each one's different, but every so often, once a week, once a month, whatever, to reach out to that source. And so I would ask the group of women that was global, hey, who do you know that, originates and services their debt, that works for a multifamily company, that I could reach out to the lender. So they gave me a list of, I don't know, 10 people. And there's probably like 4 or 5 of us that we, still talk regularly. And if we had our in-person meetings, I would be able to keep it up with all of them. But anyway, it's a little bit difficult sometimes because we have so many different webinars and things pulling our attention. And so yeah, that's how I did it. I just kind of asked them, and then really like, what's in it for them? That's like the biggest thing that you have to keep in mind is reminding or presenting first. It's about them. It's not about you. You're not getting anything. I would call or email first or whatever and say, hey, so I had this idea from another friend of mine who's had success with this. And what I thought about after they told me working with a special servicer, what was beneficial for the bank or for the lender was the fact that you guys are not in the business of keeping real estate or having a real estate portfolio. And so if you have an individual like me who has a fund or has a track record of raising money and has deals in our portfolio, you can see that I can close. And you may have your, it's kind of the same thing as being a sales rep, same talk, where you're like, I know you have your Johnny on the spot guy that you call all the time, with, for me, it was dental. So it was Patterson Dental or whatever, you call him first, but could I be second in line or third in line for someone that may already be busy? They may, like I have a family office friend where they're taking on 1,700 units right now. And they're like, and we had this other deal in Tennessee that's like 100-ish, but we don't have time for that right now. So I'm like, well, guess what I do? So kind of being in line for what's available, because at some point in time, the distress level will increase, and people can only handle so much, especially only the people that have built those relationships, will be ready to take it on. So now it's just having those conversations about, so what's cool, the lender will be able to, if they have me in line or whoever, and we have the cash or the balance sheet or whatever it is. So what happened was last year I saw them sending me some stuff that was distressed or about to be distressed. And what it really was every time so far, with Arbor, with Capital One, with Newmark Knight Frank, from off the top of my head, there's probably more, but that it was just that they weren't actually distressed yet, but the deal itself was over leveraged, like very over leveraged. So we're talking like almost 100% leverage. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they send it to me and they go, well, we want this much for it. And I'm like, well, that's market rate. Like there's no cash flow left if I do this. And that's what their problem is that there's not enough cash flow for them to be able to pay the freaking mortgage and keep the lights on. So while it is an opportunity, I was like, okay, I'll just kind of take notes on these deals and then wait like 3 to 6 months and see kind of where they're at then, because at that point, then they'll get a little bit more desperate and then there'll be a discount. And then depending on how deep, that may actually make sense. So telling the lender that basically you get to keep the same amount of assets under management for you and your company, and you don't lose those books of business as the loan officer, but you get somebody that creatively can assume it or whatever we do that keeps the debt good.
Yeah, and I like that, how you explain that, right? It's like, essentially, it is all relationships in this business, but also you've got to understand, right? People want to be friends with you, but people want to do business, right? They don't just want to be friends, right? They'd rather do business with someone that they're friends with, but they're going to have to do business, right? Essentially. And you've got to understand, like you said, what do they want? What are they going to get out of this relationship? What are you going to give them that's going to make them want to work with you, right? And once you figure that out, then you can kind of work it from there. But that's really interesting that you're able to do that. And out of interest, how is someone able to be 100% leveraged, close to it? How are you able to, because obviously the bank will give you most times 75%, right? And maybe some renovation costs, but like to be 100% leveraged, how do they manage that?
I can't speak from experience of ever doing that, because just based on other people's advice, even from this network of women at Crew, I ask, that's how I got a lot of my information during this scary period, going, oh shit, well, what is considered over leveraged? Where is it the dangerous zone? And so I haven't done anything above 75% LTV or LTC. But what I imagine that they could have done was that you can have somebody that owns the property, and then you can have them stay in as preferred equity in the deal. So they can stay in, I don't know, like $1 million or $2 million, whatever it is. And then, so say if you get 75% leverage, or say 80%, say if they got 80%, and then they said, okay, dude, or woman or whatever, can you leverage this another, or can you finance yourself another 15%? And then, so what are we at? 95% there. So that's pretty close. And then maybe do some like share purchasing from their other partners instead of doing a real estate transaction. There's a lot of creative ways to do deals, and that's another part of like learning during the lockdown that I got. Or you could have another bank do like a temporary loan essentially, and then it basically refinance them out. I've had people willing to do like, well, that doesn't count, like soft earnest money, and then you take them out, but they're not like, they don't have a lien. So anyway, those other lenders just can't have a lien on it. Like if you have agency, debt. They obviously won't allow you to have a second lien on the property, but there's many ways to do that. That capital stack, and then you can have grants. You can have, those don't have to be paid back, obviously, but there's other avenues to get other lending.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. So, and when you talk about the distress, right? You've seen distress already, and you see there's more coming. Is that just general distress from apartment investing in general and the cycle of that, or do you think there's a lot more COVID-related issues?
I don't know for a fact.
Yeah.
From seeing their books or anything, because I'm working on that right now. If you ask me in a month, I could probably tell you more, but
I'll have you back in a month then.
Yeah, I just got a couple of lists from individuals who I think are using Remine, Reonomy, people that have access to CoStar, but mostly like Reonomy, et cetera. And basically I've talked to this other company that's kind of like, they use algorithms. Like the algorithms are looking at, the patterns of the person who's paying the mortgage, or the pattern of who's renovating. And you can see certain patterns, like when someone's ready to sell or when it's distressed, because distress means so many different things, whether it's financial or whether like you had somebody die or a divorce is happening, or like there's so many different ways that it can be distressed. But what I think is happening, what it is that their mortgages are starting to become slow pay, no pay, like 90 days out. And because it was such a long stretch between the first stimulus and then this one now, I think that people that, like the typical American, I can't remember what it is, but I feel like it's 50 to 80% of us, I forget what the stat is, live paycheck to paycheck. It's a lot of us. I think it's 80%.
I think there's like 90% of people don't even have $2,000 saved up for emergencies or whatever.
Yeah, so that wouldn't obviously go very well, if there was an extended period of time where you were sick or didn't have a job. I mean, I've had some friends that have gotten COVID that have been, just knocked on their butt, for a couple of months at least, because of it. So even if they didn't lose their job, they just couldn't work, and typically employers, especially in Texas, they're not gonna pay for you to be away. They may have a job for you when you return, but here we can let go of people at will. So there's no, there's unemployment, and then everybody. Anyway, I don't want to get down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. But so you think there's going to be some opportunity coming for sure?
Oh my God, yeah. So, and then also the source too. I'll say it on here. Somebody I'm very close with, their internal economist is part of the Perot companies. And so their economist through the last 3 recessions, this person I'm very close with is also heavily in real estate. They're in hotel, they're in restaurants, franchises, multifamily, and all across the southeastern United States in many different places. And so it's kind of looking at all of those different players, but most of them, for the most part, there is some kind of underlying real estate, even in the franchise model, the way that they do it and some other things. But their economist has been saying since last year, I think, because I was hot wanting a deal so bad, in October, I was like, WTF, I need another 1 or 2 before the end of the year. And I finally got one done before the end of the year. But looking at something, I had other opportunities, don't get me wrong, but this one was just perfect as far as me being very confident that moving forward that we wouldn't have vacancy problems. So I just was going to push for another one. And he was like, just chill out. Honestly, what he's telling us, our guy, and he's been right the last 2 recessions. He's been, so if someone with experience, seems to be right, I would kind of take heed to what they're saying. But he was saying 3 to 6 months from now, you're going to see some real distress, and it will ramp up a little bit more right after that. So that would have hit, like now, January through March or so. So I think I see that, like the new stimulus payments are $600, right? And then the moratoriums have been increased or renewed in a lot of places, if not everywhere. I haven't read it because I just unfortunately I've been so confident. I need to go read in where we are, our portfolio across Texas, Phoenix. Yeah, that's where it is. And so all the deals, like the worst case we had over the whole thing was in Phoenix, our property was 1% below the year-over-year collections for the year before for 1 month. So once we kind of figured our crap out and figured out, okay, you just split their payments up, or you just learn how to be flexible and come up with programs or whatever. And then, it was actually this deal right here that we can just be proactive and kind of get ahead of it and figure it out. So And luckily we're buying in landlord friendly states. So we're able to do way more than my family can that's in Washington, Oregon.
So what does your portfolio consist of? You spoke a little bit about it, but what does it look like?
Yeah, so this is the flats at 2030 in Phoenix. It's 242 units, I believe. And then we've got one in South Dallas, it's 48 units, the Meadows, one in Denton. I'm going to get this number wrong because we bought it was 114 and then we had a fire and then we split the 2 bedrooms in half. So now it's like 120, 124, something like that. So, more income. Yay. Let's see, Denton, South Dallas there. West Texas, there's 50 units out there. They're for sale right now. And then let's see. Houston, 262 units. That's in kind of Greens Point area, Northwest Houston. And then the one we just closed last year, right before Christmas, is in Fort Worth, Texas. And that one's only 23 units, but it's full of doctors. So
Class A, I'm guessing.
It's in a Class A neighborhood, but it's a C.
So you guys are gonna reposition it, bring it up to an A?
Not quite an A, I'd say like B, maybe even B minus. We'll just see, because like part of it's testing. There's a lot of income producing possibilities, and there's actually Crimson Builders. They just whacked up a sign like right after we finished due diligence on the back. There's a back lot behind it, and so I've done some research, and what I think it's going to be is a 3-story studio only multifamily with an underground parking garage. So right behind ours. So what it looks like, if you look at all their development, minimum rent will be at least $14.25 or so, and our highest rent is $12. But that is only on 3 units that are on a month-to-month premium of an extra $200 because they just don't feel like having a lease. So really, it's like $1,000 a month. So we have quite a bit of room to grow.
With that, how do you feel like when you see that? Are you happy that there's another multifamily property there, or do you see it as competition that's going to make leasing a little bit harder?
I like it a lot because it's not a very big property. It's a little bit smaller. Well, it's just about the same size as ours. But it gives us the opportunity to take our 700 to 1,000 basically base rents and be able to add in all of the same flooring that they're going to get, all the same kitchen amenities. We're going to put in an event hood, open up a wall, add those little like USB plugs in the kitchen, keep a little bit of, so it's a historic building, so keeping a little bit of the vintage, because that's why people actually live there, to tell you the truth. But making it a little bit more modern, adding some amenities like a barbecue grill, storage lockers, carports. We'll still be under their rent. So I like it because, it justifies a higher rent, no problem.
Yeah, and it's an indicator, obviously, of course, that people don't just build anywhere, right? They've done their research, right? It's an indicator that you picked a great. I'm sure you did your research yourself, but it's another.
Well, yeah, and then I brought some other people that are like way older than me, like my boyfriend. I had him roll by there before we closed or before we changed to banks. And he's like, "Yeah, I wish I had like 5 warehouses over here, and I wish I wouldn't have sold them. Honestly, this area is growing. There's like 5 hospitals nearby and whatnot. So, yeah, it's good."
It was you, and you said there about that last one that you bought that you felt comfortable buying that now, even though there might be some distress coming. Where did that comfort lie in terms of the client, the tenant base, the area? What gave you that comfort?
Many different things. So when we look at a market, for example, we're looking at 5 things. We're looking at the crime decrease over time. We're looking at median income, which, by the way, was double what it normally is for average, is like 80,000 in this area. Looking at the population growth, or like what would drive people there. And so we have all these hospitals, residences, like resident doctors. There's a few other buildings. There's Restaurant Row nearby. So crime, population growth, income growth, median house value growth, which it's exploded. And then I'm trying to remember the 5th thing, job growth. Yeah, if I didn't say that already. So you have all those indicators there. And really usually the crime is like the killer. So I was very specific to, you do a stakeout at dusk and go drive to the very back of the property and sit there and see who's coming in, who's coming out, what prostitution's happening, what drug dealing's going on. And literally the worst case, you'd see like a bum pass by. Like that's like the worst thing. So it's a developing area, which is great. And everything that's around it is A class, except for 2 historic Victorian homes that are like, one's a museum and then 2 people live in them, so eventually that will either go away or whatever. And then let's see, also the fact that, because I looked at everybody's individual income. I mean, I have it all in here. I need to scan all these in. But I wanted to see everybody's income, and everybody's income is 4 to 8 times what it needs to be. So that was obviously awesome. You look at everybody's payment history, and most people had been there for at least a year, so I'm trying to remember what got me excited. The C class and a B++ A- area. The fact that everybody, for the most part, in the building's a physician. They work for the city. They're a medical coder. So I just really didn't feel like they were going to be evacuating and taking off. A couple of my girlfriends that give advice, for purchases, because they've got more assets under management than we do. That was a big topic when it comes to this cycle, because she's been through a recession having multifamily, and I almost bought one building in Arlington. And I remember looking at the deal with her, and she was like, look, one lesson that you buy this building and there's nothing that's going to be wrong about it. Like it's multifamily. It's going to be a solid investment, but if you want a great investment, something that is a C deal in a C area is not going to yield you during a recession, especially the types of returns that are going to maybe compensate for any lack of. So if you have loss to lease, people can't pay, or if you have people leaving, vacancy, we always adjust about 20%. The other thing that's kind of getting into the nitty gritty that I liked about it, because you go to the bank and they were being a little ridiculous about like what they were assuming would be the vacancy. Normally we assume about 10% going in, and it decreases year over year after that. Right now there's 0 vacancy, and we said, oh, okay, going in, we'll say 10%. The bank's like, oh, let's do 16, like some random number. We're like, what? But going to the bank, one thing I did like was, if you look at the debt service coverage ratio, what we needed the loan service payment every month or annually or whatever, compared to our income, our cash flow, it was over a 2.1% coverage, and the bank wants a minimum of 1.25%. So there's quite a bit of spread there. And I've had deals where same situation, and we had some shit go down, and we're okay. We really were okay. We also added extra reserves, but anyway, so that was something I really liked about it too. Yeah, and I would live there. That's also what I liked.
You can always move in if things
I
get.
almost did, but then I was like, oh, it's full. Dang it. Okay, I have to find another property and see if there's a vacant one.
But it's interesting that you guys went after that one, because obviously you guys are buying large properties, right? 200 plus units, and to buy a 23 unit is a different kind of model, right? Was this deal just too good to turn down, or were you guys trending that way anyway for some other reason?
Well, like there's a twofold, I guess, explanation on that one. So Dallas-Fort Worth is the most recession resilient market in the United States for the last 30 years. And so it's a great area to be in. Fort Worth area, especially, like this is kind of near historic downtown, and then anything that's kind of northeastern part of Fort Worth. So North Richland Hills all the way to like Houston, Euless, Bedford, that area. Those are kind of like where you can still find some meat on the bone. I mean, not really. And some good deals, but not really. So if you find a good deal that's there, and so it's about the returns for me, because like I explained to the investors who got into it, I was like, you can buy this large ass apartment. And this one right here, for example, we don't own anything nearby. We were trying to buy one across the street that was also large, but we do have economies of scale here. We don't own in that market other than this deal. So when you're hiring a property manager, a maintenance, buying supplies, whatever it is, you get economies of scale when you have a large property. However, this small one being in Fort Worth, and like with the property manager that we hired, they're still going to take a 3.5% fee. Whereas on the big ones, that's usually what you get for a fee. And that's all in. I made sure that they did that, and they were willing to do that because they had 2 other properties right around the corner. And they're like, oh, we're there all the time anyway. So it's essentially the same thing. So our cost for people that we need to run the deal aren't any greater. And then also in addition to that, again, more meat on the bone. So when our investors were investing, before we flipped the loan from agency to bank debt, once we flipped it, so we were looking at 9% cash on cash and about 75% return on sale before we flipped it to bank. And then once we flipped it to bank debt, we were looking at like 11% cash on cash and then almost 90+% return on sale. And that's not including any of the ratio rubs bill back. That's not including any of the additional income we're adding with like lockers, the garages, the coverings, the whatever, all the stuff. So anyway, so it was just, if I could find this deal on a huge scale, I mean, I buy that one too. For me, it's just about the returns. And like, for me, if I was an investor, you're putting 50K here or 50K here. It doesn't matter. It's still 50K, but would you rather have like 11 to 20% annualized return on your investment? Or would you rather have 6%, 9%, 8%, whatever, like a smaller amount? And I'm like, well, for me, I'd want the higher return, you know? And a lot of these investors are real comfortable because it's their backyard. So they're like, oh, we know the neighborhood real well. So for me, it's just about the returns. And the idea there is it's either a big deal that makes sense, that usually you have to get it before it's on market pre-listed, or you're finding these smaller complexes. Like I found one in Plano that was in the middle of downtown Plano, and it was a complete value add, 100% meat on the bone. Nothing was ever been done to it really. And the daughter was just wanting to retire. And so the ideal situation, however, it was kind of listed and people like overpaid almost $2 million for it. So I was like, no, I can't, based on the income that it produces, we can't pay that. But those deals, when you have them all within 30 minutes of each other, it's the same thing where you have economies of scale again, but yet you have more meat on the bone and better returns for your investors. So it's like, well, why not? It is a pain in the ass for me as the lead to go through the same, negotiation, put it under contract. And like, for example, I engage the attorney and I pay them a retainer of whatever it is. And then we pay them, like, say this last deal was 28 grand total because we had a tenants in common 1031 exchange come in. And then plus we had a normal deal. So it was quite an expensive legal cost for that deal. It's that 28 grand would have been the same for a deal of this size versus our $3 million deal. So, or $2.5 million deal. So, obviously you save on cost when it's bigger, but, maybe we'll need to think about having a conversation with that attorney and say, we need to figure out a sliding scale or way to adjust this, or, maybe with our artificial intelligence that's coming, having a lot of the dumb little things that have to be done with their assistant and us and SOS, Secretary of State, all these little things that we could have it pre-done for them. And they just kind of have to review things, put their seal on it, and that would make it scalable. But, I'd just rather get our investors better returns. And that's what I'm trying to be creative about. I'm not trying to do what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, I want to touch on the AI stuff in 1 second because we talked about that before. That's fascinating to me. But you said there, when you flipped it from agency to bank debt, does that mean in terms of you were going to hold it for a certain amount of time and then go to bank debt, or was you chose bank debt over agency initially when you bought it?
Yeah, it was just that we had to go with bank debt because agency couldn't close it fast enough. We needed it done before the end of the year so we could get in a cost segregation study for the tax benefits under the current Trump law or whatever before things changed, because I was like, well, we have this now. I don't know what's going to happen in January, so let's take advantage of it. So yeah, we just needed to get someone to get it done. I mean, the bank got it done in 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
2 weeks. That's like hard money.
Yeah, it helps to have somebody on the board that's your buddy.
I've seen a trend.
Going left, I was like,
I've seen a trend. You're pretty good at making relationships, I'm guessing.
well, I hate it because I think it's so, I like natural relationships where if you meet each other in your life and you guys connect and there's something there, cool beans, but I don't like having to go seek out certain relationships because it feels a little abusive. So I think it's real cheesy and I don't like that. But however, I have learned that for now, that is how this industry works. So,
yeah. And it's better. And if you have to do anything, right, if you've got to work, you might as well work smarter and do it, right? And it's not like you're being disingenuous, right? You're genuinely trying to create a relationship, but it's not necessarily maybe a relationship you go after otherwise, but you might as well, right? It's part of the business. So I understand that. How are you, what kind of returns are you setting up to? What is the split, I guess, are you doing preferred return? Are you doing any kind of waterfall? How are you guys setting it up for the investors?
Each deal is different. It just depends. So for example, I'll be completely transparent on this one. I charged a really large acquisition fee because it was going to be a pain in the ass to acquire it. It's going to be a pain in the ass to manage it right now. So I'm in charge of construction because it's a small deal. And if it was a larger deal, that fee would have been a lot less. And so because there was an acquisition fee increase, I added a preferred return to this deal just to make sure that, okay, you guys are getting paid first. That will help increase your overall annualized return. So, and then I've had deals before that I've done that we didn't do a preferred return at all. Because we felt like we were being very generous and giving it like an 80-20 split, like on this deal, we did an 80-20 split, no preferred return. So it just depends on how much work you have to put into it, how hard it is to raise the funds, because maybe like we pick a secondary market or something. Maybe it's like this one was oversubscribed. It's like, oh my God, it's Phoenix. But so it just depends. Like whatever we got to do to tweak it to where it's sellable. I mean, honestly, like, are the investors going to get better stuff because it's either higher risk or they pay more or, whatever. It's a partnership. So you got to figure out how we can give and they can take, or vice versa.
And how are you meeting investors? How are you finding your investors?
Like now?
Well, in general, how have you found your investors for all your previous deals?
Well, I mean, it's changed a lot since we're all digital now, right? So I'm very, very effing fortunate that I got going before this thing hit, because I did have some fear that's like, no, I'm like, whatever, I'm just going to go meet people. And originally the most successful patterns or ways to meet people to invest were through IRA companies or trust companies. So building relationships with New View IRA, Quest Trust Company, I can't even remember all of them anymore. New Jersey, what's that one? I can't remember, but I have like a list of them in my Slack. But there's a bunch of them, and so I reach out to them on a regular basis to ask if I can speak at their events, because what happens is that in my journey, I mean, I learn something new every day. I'm not going to lie. And so if it's something that, I learned a huge hack on due diligence, or, I've gotten a investor guide for passive investors that was created by my SEC attorney, so that these guys have a checklist of kind of what to go through and what to look for to feel out if this deal is even right for them in the first place, because there's no reason for them to be talked into anything. It's their choice. And then here's how to kind of look at your level of risk, if you're not really certain, and then go have your attorney look over it. But so kind of providing value in front of those individuals, because those people, they have money parked there and they already know that they want to invest because they've already gone through some mini classes or whatever, learning that, I can invest in alternate assets. It doesn't have to be my Roth IRA invested in whatever the company that I worked for had it in, or whatnot. So you have options. In like Quest, for example, I believe they even do like Bitcoin. They do gold. Their primary is real estate, but speaking for them in an educational perspective has been really good. When I was doing stuff face to face, there were a few online that reached out to me from doing those face to face presentations, and then over the lockdown, I did at least one or two a month for each company online presenting, and then I've done a few for Real Estate IQ, which is a company that produces underwriting software and tools for investors who want to find, off-market deal leads and things like that. I actually have started to use them recently for finding out fiduciaries on trusts information, because that was one of my first successful deals I ever did. Because you have to think back, like, okay, well, how did I win? How do I replicate that again? And it was an accident, but it was okay. That property was held in a trust, so there was zero competition. You can't look them up on Google, and no one's marketing to them. And when there's an exchange of trustee, that is announced. I forget where, but anyway, this system, REIQ, is a system where you can actually just get yourself on a list, get notifications as soon as there is a transfer of trustee. And so, someone died, someone got married, like something happened. And a lot of the times when that happens, there's someone that either gets, they don't want the responsibility anymore because they have new responsibilities, or whatever, they want to retire, whatever it is. So I don't know if that answered your question.
No, that did. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, that's a great strategy. So you mentioned it earlier, and I said, I wanted to dive in a little bit more when we were talking beforehand about you're really learning about the AI aspect, right? The artificial intelligence aspect of this business, right? And what does that mean to you, and what are you kind of looking into?
Well, I've got a call tomorrow that will solidify a little bit more of the prop tech, because that's the best way to explain it, I think, right now, because AI, like true deep learning, and really even machine learning isn't really, so there is some machine learning in apartments specifically, but very, very little. And the thing is what is out there, nothing talks to each other. When you're dealing with putting together ads online or doing something with Google or doing something with ClickFunnels, they all have like an API key, or they all have some kind of header code or something that you can copy and use in the other one so they can talk to each other. However, all the things that whoever put together in let's just say prop tech, so property tech, they don't talk to each other. It's kind of dumb. Like, why would you use this master meter over here, or sorry, metro meter? Go Google that. It's from the UK, I believe, that they have these sensors that monitor your meters. They have their own intranet. The intranet, like, they all talk to each other and they identify when one is going down or there's an issue. Scheduled maintenance is already put in the maintenance minder, so your guys already know. So just kind of automating all this stuff to make sure that your assets are upkept. So as long as you take care of those things and take care of your tenants, your properties are pretty problem free. But none of these softwares talk to each other. So I have a girlfriend who is putting together that central point, and we have a conversation tomorrow about what she's doing, because from my understanding, that's what this industry needs. But however, I don't believe that the setup of the conduit of them all talking to each other through a code or whatever, I don't believe that that is going to be connected to machine learning, which is where, say, if a maintenance minder talks to the central point and it tells the property manager that that means that our supply chain of supplies now need to be ordered, this is a separate communication channel. I don't believe that there's machine learning where the channel that goes, okay, we ordered filter AB/784A and it was wrong. So we got some feedback that it was wrong. And so that we'll never do that again. It learns, through machine learning to get better over time through some feedback in the beginning, but over time it learns. I don't believe that what she's setting up is connected to machine learning. And so that's kind of what I want to talk to her about. I've got a friend that's built a few things that are used in supply chains from Walmart to Gillette and some other places that do add in machine learning and more technology than that's available. Because what's ultimately the idea is that we can make things run themselves. I mean, that's my ultimate. I always, with the rich dad poor dad thing, I want to get to that B quadrant where you have a B type business that is a big business but it runs itself. I mean, having AI run that for you would be like the ultimate. Hey, I live in Germany sometimes, and sometimes I live in Lake Tahoe. That's really what I want. I love people and food and experiences and learning. So being able to machine learn things that I don't quite enjoy, like maintenance or whatever, would be ideal.
Yeah, and you mentioned as well that ideally you'd like to replace property management, right, with this AI, right? You have systems and procedures set up so that you don't necessarily need to employ a property management company.
Yeah, there's some companies out there right now that are already doing it. However, I've actually hired them whenever so I can poke holes in their ideas, but and kind of see like what's missing, because eventually what'll probably, like, there's three big trends in multifamily that people that are watching, I forgot the name of the thing that I have bookmarked that I watch, but it's all the new tech trends in prop tech. But in multifamily specifically, some of the three biggest things that are coming are acquisition. So meaning that you have multiple different ideas or tools or like SaaS tools and things like that that are all over the place, but then really like some central Amazon that comes in and says, in this industry, I want to buy all of these and put it all together into one thing. Like, acquisitions are definitely one big thing in multifamily that's going to be happening. In maybe even if it's just like, a big REIT buying a bunch of properties like that, acquiring that way too. But because that central point would be someone that, a AI property management company, they would talk to that person. It's just a big trend. So that thing. And then I also see there be a lot of affordable housing being used out there as buzzwords in single family. However, the trend, as you probably already know, is going towards multifamily, whether it's a baby boomer, whether it's a young Gen Z, Gen X, whatever person, all of us prefer apartments at this point. We want to be more mobile, et cetera. And people are like, oh, well, how did COVID? They didn't leave. Like, they're still in there. The biggest thing would be to then change the HVAC systems to where they're individual units and they're not on a central system like a hotel. People are afraid of hotels because usually there's a central, not always, but sometimes. So anyway, the point is that, so acquisitions is one, the other one, wherever I was going with that, that rent control. So I don't know if it's considered government mandated, but basically people in single family are going, oh, let's build affordable housing, blah, blah. I'm like, apartments are affordable housing. And since people are going to be going more from houses to apartments, now the legislative change to make apartments more affordable, because especially here, we've been able to continue to push rents because of the growth of jobs, people, income, et cetera. They want it to stop at some point and kind of be like a New York or an LA or whatever. So at some point, one of the trends we'll have to take on is probably in-house counsel, to be able to combat not having to either change our properties to rent control, or figure out a creative way around that, so we can still do what we want with our income as business owners. And then the other trend is tech, and obviously you know that.
Yeah, interesting. AI is going to take over the world, right?
So I think we're probably 30 years away from deep AI, honestly.
Oh, really?
And I'll be like 60, looking great.
It won't matter at that point. Yeah, this is fascinating, though. Really interesting stuff. So I appreciate you sharing all that. But as this show's called Wrestling with Real Estate, I always like to incorporate some wrestling-related real estate question. So the first one is, what would your wrestling name be if you picked one for yourself, you think?
Give me a sec.
Okay.
So this is the cool thing about being home, is I can just go grab my stuff. It would definitely be McMoney.
Who made you that? That's a cool.
I made it.
Okay, that's awesome. It's a Dallas Cowboys, right? Sure. Money on the back. So it would be McMoney.
McMoney. That was my track name. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. McMoney. So every wrestler has a special move, right? It's their biggest strength. When they hit that move in the match is over, because it's their biggest strength. It's what they're really good at. What is your special move in real estate?
So I mentioned before, what it really is knowing a little bit about a lot. I'm a lifetime learner, and so there's no industry or concept that completely makes me just want to throw up and look away. You know, I want to know, at least conversationally, a little bit about everything. So I've always been that way. That's why I've had, jobs, and then I learn enough to figure out the system, and I'm like, okay, moving on, But yeah, knowing a little bit about a lot, which helps to connect with people. And also it helps to have a really good 30,000 foot view of where this thing could be going.
Yeah, absolutely. What's been the biggest body slam you've taken in your real estate investing career?
Biggest body slam has definitely been, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this in a really small version of the issue. Honestly, property management. I thought, based on firing a property manager who decided that they wanted to threaten me and create an issue with my partner and drive a wedge between us, that would stop me from firing them. And I said, no, we still need our occupancy up 20%. We still need our bills paid. We still need the property to operate correctly. So you got to go. And because of what they stirred up for me, it caused a huge lawsuit that I've never been through before, caused a huge divide between myself, that person, our investors, caused another issue with 3 other deals. But luckily my other partners know me better. So, and I'm still at the tail end of that thing, so it's been the biggest learning I've ever had. And then truly to, in the beginning, look at my actions and my behaviors and figure out, okay, what did I do to attract this person? What was I desperate? Was it the fact that I wasn't able to have the type of really, really honest communication that I can now, where it's I tell investors, I'm like, look, people die on these properties. We have floods, we have fires, we have shit that happens all the time, and we have insurance for that. However, it may look scary on a report or scary in a meeting announcement or, whatever, but it's not. And if you can't stand to lose this 50,000, do not invest. And so I'm very transparent that way now.
Yeah, that's cool. Because you got to learn from your lessons, right? And asking those questions as well, what did I do, right? What caused this, right? Sometimes it's nothing, but sometimes it's something, and you can always learn from that.
There's always some core lesson that I need to learn.
Yeah. So was there a moment that you were standing on the top rope getting ready to jump, but you were too scared? What was it and how did you overcome it?
All the time. Like
Yeah.
so the thing is I keep doing it, but it gets dull. Like your gut feeling of like, oh shit, no, do it. It gets more dull over time. And you're like, okay, this isn't the first rodeo. We've done this before. Calm down. So for example, like fundraising, I mean, every time for the most part, it's gotten a little bit easier. But I know what to expect. I know that like people aren't going to start throwing money at me the first week or two, or sometimes three that I'm raising. You know, it's usually towards the end that I have to put tons of urgency on things for them. Wire me the money. You know what I mean? Like now, or you get $1,000 late fee, you know, for signing the documents, not wiring. So I've figured out creative ways to make it a little bit more not based on pressure from them, for them to know I'm providing a service, for them to know there's limited seats available, and I'm not just saying words. I'm literally bringing in enough traffic, conversations. I'm part of a couple of groups now that have made it a little bit easier to reach out to people who are always wanting to do deals. So, but yeah, it's always nerve wracking. It's always, you know, when you go under contract, sometimes I don't even have the money to put the earnest money down. You know what I mean? Because you want to plan for these things, and a good deal you can't plan for. And I'm starting a fund, but I didn't have one before. So you don't just have unlimited funds sitting around to go, oh, next month a deal's going to pop up. And that's how it happens. And you got to go when it's a deal. So having to come up with a list of people that I can call, you know, helps that gut feeling of being freaked out kind of decrease over time. So, I mean, like the ladies on my team, I've given them access to a spreadsheet that I have of like, okay, here's all the vendors I've ever used for lending, 1031, brokers. Here's the soft money lenders. They'll put up your earnest money for you. Here's all that, you know, it's taken me time and a lot of work to build that list, but that makes it a little bit less scary, you know, next time.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. Well, hey, Kaylee, this has been really interesting. Like you're sharp, like super sharp. There's no doubt about it. Like, and I love your outlook on everything and how you see stuff and how you've realized that relationships are an important part, right? You know, I think that should be your special move, right? More than knowing a little bit. I think you're playing down your other skills. Like I think the ability to create relationships with people has been a huge part of your success, I'm sure. So that's really cool. But I appreciate you sharing your story.
Right. One thing I want to put in there real quick is you're right. Someone said this somewhere, I read it, but like you will get nowhere without other people. Like other people hold whatever it is or wherever it is that you want to go. That's just how the human race works. So if you want anything, you have to learn that you need to give, and you need to work with other people.
Yeah, exactly. And it's understanding how to work with other people, right? How to work with other people is so important.
Them. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Essentially, right? That's the truth of the matter. Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, cool. Thank you so much for making time. Thank you for sharing everything that you shared. It's been awesome. If people want to reach out to you, she's holding up the shirt again. If people want to reach out to you, people want to get in touch with you, how can they do so? Maybe if you mentioned that investor guide there, if people want to learn more about that investor guide, all that good stuff, right? Let us know how we can find out more.
Sure. So if you go to my website, www.theapartmentqueen.com, there is a place to learn about how to do a 1031 exchange into an apartment. We have underwriting software on there. There's a link to the YouTube channel, same name, Kaylee McMahon, and you can learn about, you know, all the things that we just talked about plus more. And if you want to email me individually, it's admin@theapartmentqueen.com.
Cool. Nice and easy. Theapartmentqueen.com. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Kaylee. This is awesome. This is a lot of fun. I appreciate you making time. Have an awesome rest of your night. We're out there in Dallas, right?
Yeah. Thank you, Barry.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure.